This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency space. My guest today is Cody Willard. Cody is an American investor, hedge fund manager, and publisher of tradingwithcody.com. Cody was an anchor on the Fox Business Network, and he was the Wall Street correspondent for The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. So American listeners, you may well be very familiar with Cody. Hey, Cody, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
So one of the reasons you're here, really, Cody, is to talk about SKTLs. Am I saying that right?
SKTLS.com, SKTLs. It's short for Sky's the Limit. It is the space debris cleaning cryptocurrency.
That is right. And this is kind of a fascinating idea. So I guess to begin with, though, I suppose I gave a kind of a nice snapshot in the introduction about yourself, Cody, but let's go again. Love you just to introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of lead up to SKTLs and how you got involved. But love to hear a bit about, I guess, your background, who you are in the context of finance, investing, crypto, all that good stuff.
Sure. So I spent... I like you mentioned earlier, I was an anchor on Fox Business, and before that, I was actually Larry Kudlow's sidekick when he was on CNBC for many years. I wrote for TheStreet.com and have been, even I guess you could call it Cramer's sidekick for a few years back. And Jim Cramer from CNBC and stuff, and he was, I guess, sort of the one who quote unquote discovered me many years ago. But yeah, over the years, I've done TV, but if I didn't love TV, and I do love investing, and I ran a hedge fund before I went into TV, and I quit TV to go back into hedge funding several years ago. And these days my full-time job is running a hedge fund. I also have a service called Trading with Cody at tradingwithcody.com, where I basically just publish all of my homework and analysis and let people know what I'm buying and what I'm selling and when I'm buying and selling it. Along the way, I've been a Bitcoin investor for 8 or 9 years. I wrote an article for the Wall Street Journal back in 2013 when Bitcoin was at 100, telling everyone that you could and should put up to 1% of your net worth into Bitcoin. And I did. I've owned Bitcoin for a long time. I still have most of it. I've trimmed a little along the way. I'm an investor in Ethereum and Ripple and a few others for a few years also since then. But I became quite a bit of a crypto bear, and I am very worried about crypto in general right now. I think we're in a bubble, and I think it needs to pop. And I think the vast majority of the 18,000 tokens out there are fraudulent, stupid, or silly, and are going to zero.
Yeah, well, it's hard to argue with that, Cody. I probably tend to agree with you, but that does beg the question, if you forgive me for asking, why have you got involved with one of these 18,000 tokens yourself?
Well, it's a great question. And so what happened was, I don't know, about a year ago, 6 months ago, I was doing some research on a couple of these tokens, and someone asked me about like HEX, HEX, and I did it. And I was like, this looks like silly, stupid, or fraudulent to me. And I said that about most of them that I would look at whenever one of my subscribers would ask me to take a look at them. And I thought to myself, who and how are they creating all of these cryptos so easily? So I thought, I'm going to create a crypto. At first, I thought I will make the anti-crypto crypto, and I wanted to figure out how to make a coin that would go up in value when the other cryptos crashed and went to zero. But more seriously, what I realized is I'm an investor in space. I think space, the space revolution, going to space, going to Mars, creating factories in orbit, and tourism and space hotels and all of this stuff, I think over the next 10 or 15, 20 years is one of the smartest and safest places to bet and invest, because I think it's an obvious revolution whose time has come. And so I thought, why don't we create a space crypto? And I wanted to figure out how to make something that was, I kept saying, virtuous and transparent. And what we ended up figuring out, working with our attorneys, is we've created a crypto that's unlike any other that you will ever talk about on here, because there are no founder tokens. There is no way for me to get rich having created this thing unless I buy it and or get the airdrop like you do. Everyone can get the free airdrop by going to SKTLS.com. We are literally giving away every single token that will ever be printed. It's given away either to early adopters and space enthusiasts who buy this, who go get the airdrop and or eventually buy this crypto, or we put half of them into a fund. And that fund, its only job once a year is to send those the SKTLs cryptocurrency tokens to a company, country, entity, university, student, doesn't matter, who will go out and clean up space debris. You've got to figure out how to clean up all these little pieces of debris that are flying around the planet in orbit at 17,000 miles per hour if we're going to get the space revolution to work. So in a nutshell, what I tried to do was create a crypto that would do tackle of social good. You could do this with plastics in the ocean instead of space debris. But if you can create incentives, profit motives for early adopters and space enthusiasts to actually do a social good of cleaning up space debris, you've got something. And that's what we created. And that's why I thought, certainly if you create something virtuous and transparent that does a social good and you give it all away, maybe it's not going to be silly, stupid, or fraudulent, and it might actually be one that works. And that's what we've ended up building. And we've got a team of 20 or 30 people who have volunteered from investment banks and giant tech companies and software programmers and IBM technologists and all kinds of people that have volunteered and helped me build this crypto. SKTLS.com is where you can go register for the free airdrop.
Well, I think let's just get the details for that free airdrop then, Cody. So that'll be, anyone listening to this, their ears, of course, will have pricked up when they hear that there is a free airdrop happening. You're essentially giving away a lot of these tokens, and I believe that is happening on May the 6th. So that's 1 or 2 months away. And what's the significance of that date, Cody? And also, who is eligible for this airdrop and what should they do?
Great questions. To be clear, let me answer the relevance part first. Space Day. The first Friday of every May is Space Day. You celebrate space. And we thought that was an appropriate time to do our airdrop. That is also once a year when the Skittles DAO, the community eventually awards the SKTLs tokens to space debris cleaning companies or countries or entities of any sort. The other question was what?
Who is eligible?
You need to be a United States or Canadian citizen to get the free airdrop. The only reason for that was we have to avoid any probabilities or possibilities of someone from North Korea or otherwise sanctioned country registering for our airdrop. And so in order to limit anyone, in order to try to make sure that we're following any U.S. sanctions, which is where I am based, we made sure that it's only United States citizens and Canadian citizens, unfortunately, that can get the airdrop.
And perhaps maybe once the token starts to hit various decentralized exchanges further on in the future, I suppose other people would be able to purchase the tokens then if they wished? On
May 7th. The day, May 6th, literally when the airdrop hits, it will be on Sushi Swap and Pancake Swap and T0, which is actually a centralized exchange, has talked with us and they want to buy our crypto and offer it to their customers, as quickly as they possibly can after the airdrop. And so, yes, as soon as the airdrop happens, like any open platform, open token, it is an ERC20 token, and you'll be able to buy it on any decentralized exchange where people are willing to sell it to you. And I personally will be doing that. I plan to go buy it with my own money after the airdrop. I'm not actually going to register for the airdrop. I've got a hedge fund that is pays my bills. Let's put it that way. And I don't want to do anything that might ever get me in trouble. And so I am giving away all of the tokens. And then after it airdrops, I'll actually go buy some on the open market myself.
Amazing. And so, Cody, you talked about this being a social good, and also how you're interested in, I suppose, space as, the final frontier, or the next kind of boom market that all drives humanity forward. I get all that. How does the SKTL token itself, how do you contribute to this goal of cleaning up space debris?
Okay, great question, and let me just repeat it. It's SKTL, like sky's the limit, and the website is SKTLs.com.
Sorry, that's my dyslexia. I'm probably reading that wrong. Yeah, SKTL.
I was actually on Fox Business maybe a month ago or a couple of weeks ago talking about this, and Charles Payne, my good friend and anchor there, messed up every time he tried to say it. He never did get it correct. So at any rate, I don't blame you for not being able to say SKTLS.com off your tongue rolling like I can.
Yeah.
Look, what the plan is that we will be giving away, as I mentioned, what happens is half of the tokens go to early adopters and space enthusiasts who get involved with the SKTL token. Every time there's a space event, we will print. In other words, every time a new satellite is launched or a human being is sent above the Kármán line or something is landed on the moon, we will print more tokens. That's how the tokens are quote unquote mined. And what you're doing is every time you print more tokens, half of them are sent out as interest payments to existing holders, and half of them go into a fund. That fund, as I mentioned earlier, will also get half of the tokens that are airdropped on the first day. Every time any token is published, half of them go to existing users, half of them go to this fund. Once a year, every space day in May, once a year, that fund donates 10% of its SKTL tokens to various companies, like, say, SpaceX, which has a plan to go out and open the side of its Starship and actually collect space debris. There's also a litany of startups out there that are trying to figure out how to clean space debris. There is no real economic incentive to clean up space debris right now. It's sort of like cleaning up plastic in the ocean. It's not like you can just make money by using the goods that are floating around out there or that are orbiting in space. That's why it's a social good. And that's why this is an interesting development that I think we've actually tapped onto using social contracts, is if you can create these incentives for early adopters early on, and then likewise have a fund that actually pays to actually do something for social good, then you've got this new model where you create a social good through profit motive. And like I mentioned, you could do it in cleaning up plastic, but even more real to helping humankind, you could have a food coin. Someone needs to create a food coin using a model like the one we created that rewards people who are interested in feeding other people. And you become an early adopter. And every time someone builds, say, a new food bank, you print more tokens and you reward the early adopters, and you send half of those tokens once a year to what? To build more food banks or to supply food into those food banks. Those types of ideas are happening right here, right now. Unfortunately, 99.99% or more of those 18,000 existing cryptos are fraudulent, silly, or stupid and not actually doing something good.
Yeah, well, that's right, Cody. And, these are fascinating ideas, and you're correct in that there are a number of different teams throughout the wider crypto ecosystem working on different ways of, I suppose, raising just new experiments in raising funds to achieve a goal, and a lot of those goals are social goods, such as what you guys are trying to do. I was looking at an interesting one the other day. I think it's called Proof of Humanity, which are trying to do something similar in creating a form of universal basic income for anyone who registers, which is, I think, that's something
very neat. Yeah, I just pulled it up. I had not heard of it. And that's what's neat, right? Like, it's the DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization, the concept of smart contracts and cryptocurrency and openness and, you know, trustless networks that are verifiable. That stuff is truly revolutionary. And I think we are experiencing something in human nature and maybe not in human nature, you can't change human nature, but you're experiencing something in the fundamental way of organizing humans together that can create profit motives, but also do social good and create different incentives that are not just, hey, how do we grow more cash flow? How do we create more profits? How do we avoid getting taxed? That type of stuff, which, you know, in the grand scheme of finance, most of it all is either lending or borrowing people or companies with money, or investing and buying equity in those monies, or consuming something. And in order, and of course, taxation would be another thing. But there's sort of this new way of creating incentives because of open contracts and, you know, transparent motivations.
That's right. And just to cover off the idea of space exploration, and you know, we talked about SpaceX before, of course, founded by Elon Musk, and Elon, of course, has also put up, you know, the Starlink satellite system, which some people have criticized him for as almost a form of space junk, even though, you know, the Starlink system is delivering a social good, and that it's taking internet all around the world to, you know, harder to reach more, particularly in the Ukraine at the moment. He's sent over a whole lot of Starlight units to the Ukraine to give them internet in their time of need. What do you, I suppose it's a roundabout way of saying, yeah, what do you think of Elon's endeavors in space? What do you think his goals are what do you think about his goals in terms of, you know, trying to get to Mars, the red planet, to kind of establish that second base of humanity in case, excuse my French, we fuck up the planet here, which it looks likely. Cody, yeah.
So look, I'm an investor in SpaceX, and that might answer the question in a very specific / general way. I am a big believer. I've owned Tesla for several years. Elon actually blocked me on Twitter back in 2008 when he was going to come on my show that night, and I tweeted to him, Elon wants more welfare for Tesla. What do you guys think? And he canceled his segment, blocked me on Twitter. That being said, I'm an open-minded guy. And even though I do not like corporations getting welfare, which is the only way that Tesla was ever built, when the Model 3 came out and full self-driving kept developing, I went and bought a Model 3 to test it out and immediately saw that he had finally delivered what he promised. And I've been an investor in Tesla since that moment. About 3 years ago, I bought SpaceX. About 6 months later in my hedge fund, and I bought another 2 or 3 tranches in the private markets. Since then, you can't buy SpaceX in the open market yet. Eventually, Starlink will go public, and you will be able to buy at least that subsidiary of SpaceX. Look, the Starlink satellites right now, and the only reason why the U.S. government is so amenable to Elon sending up those numbers of satellites is because if he doesn't, that low Earth orbit range that he's sending those satellites into, well, they'll be taken up by China or Russia. Someone's going to put satellites up there, and the U.S. wants the U.S. to own it. And so you've got to get as many satellites up there as soon as possible in order to keep anyone else from sending their stuff up there. And, you know, like you mentioned, Starlink is actually going to do a very good social good. Anytime that you create more transparency and enable more people in more places to have unfettered internet access, that's a good thing. You might have also noticed that Elon Starlink did not block any Russian state-owned news sites. And as Elon said at the time, he hate to be a free speech purist, but then again, you got to keep it open. And so, look, openness is and transparency, going back to my SKTL Space Token, that's what we're trying to do with this crypto stuff, right? Be open and transparent. Let me answer the space thing real quick. I'll try to be 30 seconds or less in this answer. What has happened in the space revolution is that the costs of sending things to space, courtesy of SpaceX and Rocket Lab, and maybe another company or two, has plummeted to the point where it's getting de minimis. It really is going to cost you nothing to send people, humans, and factories and equipment to at least low Earth orbits and into outer space and eventually to the moon and to Mars over 5, 10, 15 years. And it will be as, not quite as cheap, but it'll be as cheap for someone to say fly from rural Alaska, to Disney World will be about the same price as someone going from New York to a hotel in outer space in, say, 5 years. And so as the costs to get to space continue to plummet, as the technologies continue to advance, as you're able to send up giant computer servers that do all kinds of amazing lasers and videos and stuff, like you're going to have all kinds of new applications and services, and you yourself at home don't even know all of the ways that space is going to help you feed your children and make more money and become wealthy over 5, 10, 15 years because of all the great ideas that people will come up with once it becomes almost free to get to space.
Yeah, very, very nicely said, Cody. I agree with that. Well, look, as we start to finish off this part of the podcast, I'd love to just get, I suppose, look, your thoughts really on well, the macro investing environment, just because, in crypto, we're used to this idea that everything is volatile in both directions, but that's, it's never on the kind of the global macro stage, it's never been more volatile than it is at the moment. What are you expecting to happen this year? I know that's a huge question, but just any way you want to approach it. Yeah, love to hear your thoughts.
It's interesting how you sort of framed it such that you didn't ask me. I spend most of my time investing in stocks and writing about stocks, but I write and invest in cryptocurrency, obviously, too. And the macro environment, as it pertains to crypto, is your question. And I think that's what's interesting here is clearly the war in Ukraine with Russia and the dynamics around Russia being sanctioned and trying to sell oil to China or to India and the petrodollar and the dynamics of the new world. Like I do think once Russia invaded Ukraine in the as serious a way as it did, and with the West's reaction being as serious as it was, we entered a new paradigm. I don't think the liberal globalized world order that we've spent my career investing in is going to carry on. I think domesticating your supply chains is going to be a long-term trend that will happen over 5 or 10 years. Intel, by the way, is my single favorite stock right now because it is going to help the United States and Europe even domesticate their chip supplies off of Taiwan and Korea, to a lesser extent China. Beyond that, though, as it applies to crypto, this war and the petrodollar and global anti-unglobalization and all of these things are good for crypto. They're good for Bitcoin. That being said, I do think we've got to have a serious washing out of comeuppance for these 17,900 tokens that are fraudulent, silly, and stupid that need to go to zero. So you're going to have to wipe out. On the one hand, you've got the macro picture itself is very positive for crypto. On the other hand, the existing bubble that needs to pop in crypto is very bearish. What I would expect is that you would probably want to stick with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Go get yourself some free SKTL tokens for the airdrops because it doesn't cost you anything. And Other than that, probably be really cautious. I think you're going to get washed out. I think Bitcoin itself will probably hit 30, 40, 50% the day that these the fraudulent, silly cryptos start getting wiped out.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Cody. So I agree with that. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I think we should go to a very quick break, Cody, and then we will come back and we'll have some fun. We'll finish off. We'll run you through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round.
I'm ready.
In today's crypto market, the team at Brave New Coin are the sector's leading builders of custom crypto indices. BNC's powerful indexing engine draws on Brave New Coin's premium data to calculate high-frequency intraday and end-of-day indices for a wide range of index products. BNC's custom indices help you to gain exposure to the crypto assets class and track your performance against the market without having to become a stock picker. Not sure what you need? A Brave New Coin consultant can help you assess your requirements. Contact BNC today to find out more.
All right, we're back, and I'm with Cody Willard. Cody is, well, he's an American. He's an investor. He's a hedge fund guy. He was kind of previously almost famous on kind of finance TV. As I understand it, he's a good friend of Neil Patrick Harris, I think, Cody. Is that right?
He was my first friend, and to this day, one of my very best friends. I've known Neil basically my whole life. My parents are good friends with his parents, and solid dude. I got a quick crypto story actually about Neil. I don't know, 2018, I guess was probably the year. I was in Vegas at the Consumer Electronics Show. Neil and I were actually speaking at an event together, and we were talking about apps and things. But while I was there, I ran into Mr. Wonderful, from Kevin O'Leary.
Yes, Shark Tank.
I ran into him. I ran into Neil. I ran into Bobby Fairley, who's the director and creator of Something About Mary and Dumb and Dumber. And I don't know, I probably saw 4 or 5 different celebrities, mostly A-list kind of people there over that weekend. Had dinner with Mr. Wonderful overnight. And I'm not joking that every single person that I talked to that weekend wanted my take on Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin code, Bitcoin. And of course, Bitcoin at the moment had just gone from like 2,000 to 19,000. And I told them all, dude, I just sold you that Bitcoin you bought because I am trimming. I'm taking 1/3 of my Bitcoin off. And that was the top on that cycle of the Bitcoin. And it's one of those things, and this is probably where we are right now. Like when everybody you know is asking you about crypto, probably the top. I will tell you that Neil held on to his Bitcoin, emailed me about a year ago asking, what do you think now? And I said, man, just hold on to it if you wrote it this far. And amen, he's still a believer and he owns it.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, Cody, I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
I am.
All right, well, you know how this works, Cody, just kind of quick, snappy answers, hot take style. The first question is, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-coin opportunist spectrum?
Ooh, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. I would go somewhere red, orange, yellow, greenish. I'm greenish blue. If ultraviolet is pure Bitcoin maximalist, I'm somewhere in green blue.
I like it. Okay. What would you say, Cody, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
That 90% of the existing cryptos are silly, stupid, or fraudulent and are going to zero.
Yep. Like it. All right. Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. With that in mind, Cody, crypto, blockchain, Web3, what does it all look like in 10 years' time?
Ooh, in 10 years' time, it looks very exciting. There is a lot more empowerment and transparency in the system, but it'll still have its pockets of corruption, silliness, fraudulence, and stupidity.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Actually, well, same question then. 10 years time, you know, the space industry, whether it's kind of
Better question.
All right.
Wow. So space, truly, in 10 years, like not 5 years, not 3 years, we're going 10 years. Yes, in 10 years, somebody will be on Mars. There will not be a civilization there yet. There will be factories in space. Amazon itself will like have distribution centers and things up in space. And yeah, the space will be very populated with satellites and ships and things running around.
Really? And 10 years? Space is hard. Can we do all this in the next 10 years?
Hey man, you just got through using the Bill Gates quote. I would have gone out to 20 years. Normally I would have said like, this is a 15, 25 year thing I'm talking about, but you just got through saying I don't underestimate the next 10 years. So I overestimated the next 10 years.
Of course. And well, look, that, I guess another way of framing that is a book that I know you've read, Cody. It's called The Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil. And it's the power of exponential growth, right? And so one way of looking at that is, you know, technology networks, but I think you can probably just about apply it to things like the electrification of our global car fleet and potentially, you know, the efficiencies in our rockets, right?
Oh, it's not just that. It's actually the financial systems itself.
Yes.
I actually have something I call the Kurzweil rate of change theory.
Yes.
And what it is all about is about how, because we are standing on 100,000 years of human innovation, and in the next 10 years, we will have more innovation than all 100,000 years combined, according to Kurzweil's theories. That means that over the next 10 years, that money, technology, ideas move instantly, quicker, and with more utility than they ever have before. And over 10 years time frame, man, you just got me even more excited about the next 10 years, because truly, the Kurzweil rate of change means that 10 years is worth 1,000.
Yeah, so effectively, and that just means that we will barely recognize the world that we live in just 10 years' time compared to where we are now, which is a little bit, yeah, it's exciting, but it's frightening as well, because the human mind, as you know, Cody, we're not really wired for exponential change. We're more comfortable thinking in a linear fashion. Man, it's a brave new world.
It is, and I know you're trying to wrap this up, but let's just think about that for one moment. You know, I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old daughter who's on oxygen, and genetically, she's got a genetic disorder, and she wouldn't be alive 15 or 20 years ago. And that's what's truly incredible. Even just in the last 10 years, the ability to keep someone with trisomy 13 alive has been mainstreamed. And that type of stuff is happening all the time. And, you know, you didn't have a smartphone when you were, you know, a kid. You couldn't record your life and all of the great dunks that I did in college and high school. I wish I could have videos on TikTok of them. But that stuff is a snapshot in time. And in 10 years, a TikTok video is going to be silly too.
Exactly right. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Cody. You know, William Gibson, famous sci-fi author, he said, Cody, that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So, you know, we've talked a lot about the future, but with that in mind, can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
Well, could we even go with the smartphone then? I mean, you know, the vast majority of this planet does not have access to the internet and the smartphone, you know, 7 billion people, and less than half of those are even on social networks. So, I mean, that might be the most tangible process. How about another one, just simply that the future is here. You got people eating tinfoil covered sushi for $1,000 a bite, and you got people outside that restaurant just trying to find some food in a trash can.
Yeah, and that is exactly right, and that is that's a perfect example of not evenly distributed. Time to zoom out though, Cody. Time to get a little bit weird for a second. What do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see utopia or dystopia?
I don't think it's going to be either or. It'll be, you know, nothing's ever going to be perfect, and nothing, hopefully. It is possible that dystopia, look, there's either total termination or some forms of utopia in the future. I would hope, hopefully over time we can organize human beings such that they don't fight over borders.
That would be nice. All right, Cody, finally, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, TV show, or universe?
Oh, that's so lame. I mean, come on, Star Wars, man. I mean, I don't know. Quantum Leap. I used to love Quantum Leap. That's a different one. How about that one? It's at least not a cliche. Quantum Leap is my favorite sci-fi story. That's all I got.
I love that.
I got one more for you, actually.
Yeah.
The Green Futures of Tycho.
I'm not familiar with that one.
It is a random child. It's like a teenager's book from the 1980s. You can find it on Amazon. I've read it 3 or 4 times over the years. I tried to find a copy. I couldn't, so I ordered one on Amazon. That's how I know it still exists. And it's a trippy It's a trippy thing about like what you just asked. In the future, will it be utopia or dystopia?
Yeah, brilliant. All right. What was the title again? The
Green Futures of Tycho, Tycho, as I recall.
Fantastic title. But this has been fun, Cody. I've very much enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for coming on the show today. Nothing else to say really, except hand the metaphorical microphone back to your good self. Look, please tell the people where they should go to find out about SKTLs, Skittles, depending on your accent, how you want to say it. It's the Sky's the Limit Space Token. Where should they go, particularly if they're in the US or Canada and want to get that free airdrop?
Go to SKTLS.com. SKTLS.com. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm not exactly that active, but you can also go to tradingwithcody.com and subscribe. It does cost you money to read my trades. It costs you nothing to get the free token. Now, that is something most people on Twitter don't offer. Free tokens, but it costs you money to find out what they think in the market.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I love it. All right. Hey, thanks very much, Cody. All the best with your Space Sky's the Limit project. Be fascinating to watch your progress. All the best, and bye for now.
Thank you much.
All right, there you go. That was Cody Willard. How fun was Cody? Cody was fun. Yeah. So, Sky's the Limit. Skittles. Space Tokens. Free airdrop available. How do you think that will go? Can we clean up the sky? I don't know. Definitely enjoyed chatting to Cody. I hope his project goes well. Yeah, I mean, space, the final frontier. It is kind of, that's what it is really. And, he is right. There's a lot of junk in the sky, unfortunately, just as there's a lot of junk in the sea, plastics. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of the least of our worries at the moment with just the craziness that is the world in 2022. And yeah, just intoxicating, but also frightening to think that, we could just see an exponential change in the world from here, for good or bad. But yeah, man, I'm just babbling here at the end of the show, but really sometimes that's all you can do. Thank you very much for listening. If you're still listening at the end of the show, please don't forget to subscribe to the Crypto Conversation podcast and whatever podcast app you are using. And please do give us a 5-star rating in Apple iTunes or the Apple Podcast app. Would really appreciate that as well. All right. Thanks for listening, team. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin.